you ready to master the waves of medical device product development? Well, wax up your surfboard because you are listening to Inspired by Amua. And here is your medical device product development expert, that Hawaiian-hearted hostess who will help you hang 10, Megan Alonso.
And aloha! You're listening to Inspired by Amua, where we help you master the waves of medical product development. Each week, we interview guests that educate, guide, and inspire to give you and your product the skills you need to hang 10. If this is your first time listening, Amua is spelled I-M-U-A, and it's a Hawaiian word. It means to advance forward with passion despite rough waves. There are plenty of those in the medical device development industry, but keep listening because we've got you covered. So I have a very special guest today. He does a lot of speaking. Actually, that's how we met. We met at a speaking event, although I've been listening to his podcast for a while before that. He's a fellow podcaster. And he's not in the medical device industry. He does have several successful businesses that he's built up. And he used to be an architect before he was let go. And we'll talk about that in the interview because it leads to a book that he's written. And I am having him on the show today because I read one of his books recently called Will It Fly? And it's all about validating your product idea, which is really important when you're developing a medical device. It's really important anyway, but especially with a medical product that takes a lot of money to get there. So validating your product is a big part of my program that is live right now. You can fill out an application for free to get in. I'm accepting 10 spots and it's free. You'll help me through the beta version of it and just working out the kinks. You'll get to help me define it. And then you'll actually get to repeat it again for free next year when we launch the finished product. So you can find more out about that. Go to amua-services.com/IIPP for Invention Idea to Profitable Product. Or if you're out and about, you can just text the word Invention to 44222 to get the details on applying. And without further ado, I'll introduce my guest. His last name is Flynn, which is my maiden name, although he's not a family member. Please help me welcome Mr. Pat Flynn. Pat, are you ready to hang 10?
Let's do it. I'm here. I'm ready.
All right. So I introduced you a little bit, but give us some more background in what you've been up to the last decade.
Yeah, well, I feel like everything that is kind of happening in my life right now is surrounding my kids. And so, I got 2 kids, beautiful kids, a 4-year-old daughter, a 6-year-old boy. And I'm just so blessed that I'm able to have work that allows me to really build my life around them. And obviously my wife, who is amazing as well. Her name's April. And so the businesses I have that are online, they allow me to be very flexible with when I work. And I typically do my work when the kids are either at school or when they're asleep. And all the other times I'm with them, we're playing games, we're going to museums, we're reading together, we're doing all that stuff. But kind of rewinding a little bit, you'd mentioned a little bit that I was in the architecture field, and I was for about 3 years. I went to school at UC Berkeley for 5 to study architecture. I thought that was what I was going to do for the rest of my life. And then in 2008, I was told I was going to be let go. And so I was trying to figure out what to do, and I soon discovered this world of online business. I had actually gotten inspiration to create an online business around my knowledge in a particular niche in the architecture space from listening to a podcast called Internet Business Mastery. And from there, I ended up building a website called greenexamacademy.com, which helps people pass an exam called the LEED exam, which stands for Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design. It's like most of you probably never even heard of it. But after I built that site, I ended up writing a study guide for it, then selling practice exams. And within about a year and a half, I was able to take that business after getting laid off to a 6-figure business, making over $200,000 in digital sales of an ebook study guide. That was the coolest part about this whole thing. Was it wasn't physical books. Getting inspiration from a book called The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss. I read about these things that you could do to automate your business as much as possible. So I actually had people come to the site, purchase guides or practice exams, and they could get it delivered to them immediately after purchase via email. And they could print out the books if they wanted to, but actually most people ended up reading it on their devices or on their computer to study. study. And money would directly go into my PayPal account from there. And I would literally wake up the next morning with more money in my bank account. Like, it was the craziest thing. And I thought it was just almost too good to be true. And so when I started sharing this with people, some of my ex-coworkers who were trying to figure out what to do, they were like, can you create something that could show me how to do this? Like, I need to know everything that you're doing. And so I created smartpassiveincome.com to pretty much just document every step of the process along the way. I started sharing everything that I was doing, all the tools that I was using, where I was getting inspiration from, tips and tricks I was learning along the way, plus a lot of the mistakes I was making along the way too. And over time, I just started to build new businesses. I started a website to help people in the security guard training industry. That was a niche that I found that was underserved, which is why I went that way. And that became the #1 security guard website and training website in the world. Then I created a website to help people who were starting food trucks. I also built an iPhone application business with 20 apps live in iTunes and experimented with that. Then I started to dabble with affiliate marketing and then speaking and writing books and podcasting as well. I have a podcast called the Smart Passive Income Podcast, which is just actually last week passed 30 million downloads, which is just incredible to think that just doing this all in the comfort of my own home, in my home office with a microphone. And it's been truly an amazing and humbling experience. And to get people to want me to come on their show and speak, I'm just so humbled by that. And so again, thank you, Megan, for having me here. And I'm, to get invited on stage and to now get paid to speak, it's just, I can't believe it. I mean, I literally pinch myself every day, and I'm super thankful that I got laid off. Back then, it was the worst thing that ever happened to me. I actually had just gotten engaged, and 2 months later, I had been told I was going to be let go. Like, I didn't know what was going to happen, but I truly look back and think, man, that was a huge blessing in disguise, because if I wasn't laid off, I probably wouldn't have taken the risks and done these things out of my comfort zone that I would need to do to build my own business.
Mm-hmm. Well, thanks for filling us in there, and congratulations. I didn't know that you just hit over 30 million downloads. That's
thank you.
Crazy.
Thank you. And it's not all my mom either. Like, she didn't listen 30 million times. Like, I know there's a few people out there that
Some
listen.
of that's me. So
Okay. Thank you.
So as you guys can see, Pat has been very successful. But what I really want to dig into and how that applies to you all is there's been some times where he hasn't been so successful. And his latest book called Will It Fly really touches on how to make things successful through marketing validation. And so in my upcoming program, the Invention Idea to Profitable Product that I'm launching soon, that's the biggest part of my program, is really making sure the market wants and needs what you have to offer and how it fits in. So Pat, I know you have a story about something that didn't quite work. So share with us kind of what was going through your head at that time when you were just so excited about creating it, and what happened from there.
Well, there's literally dozens of those stories. I just happen to include in feature one in Will It Fly, but there are many times in my past that I've failed. And I hope that's a big lesson for all of you, that failure is actually okay, that it's a part of the process. This is something I'm trying to teach my son now that he's 6 and he's exploring new things. He sees daddy do business. He wants to do business too. He's starting to understand that, making mistakes and failing is just a part of the process, because you learn from that and you adjust and you shift in a new direction. That's the beauty of failing. You know not to do it that way. So now let's try a different way. But for me, failing in the beginning was something that I was definitely afraid of, but only over time did I start to really understand that. But there was one particular example, and I think this is the one that you're talking about, which was in 2010. My business was doing really well, and I, like you had all heard already, I kind of dabble and try and experiment with a lot of different things. And I saw a couple of my friends who were bloggers create WordPress plugins. WordPress is a blogging platform that one could use to create their own blog. And there are these things called plugins, which you could essentially just plug and play to open up really cool customized features on your site. And they had each created, they didn't even know each other, but they were both doing this thing at the same time, and they were doing different things. So they weren't really in competition with each other. But I saw them launch their products, their premium WordPress plugins, within a month from each other. And they had each made over 6 figures in about 7 days to 14 days. So within a week after launch, they were already making 6 figures from that. And I was just so inspired by that. And I was so, wow, I gotta do this. This is awesome. I gotta try this too. And what really happened was I was chasing the dollars, and that's what drove all the decisions that I had made moving forward, which ended up becoming majorly poor decisions. But what happened was I immediately came up with a couple ideas and just, not even fleshed them all out, but I kind of knew what I wanted my own version of plugins to do. I found a developer that I hired for $5,000 and we started working together. And then that $5,000 ended up becoming $10,000 because we needed more time, because I just hadn't really cleared up what was actually going to happen with these plugins in my head. So that was the big struggle at first. Well, the first problem was I tried to do 2 at one. Like, that just showed you how greedy I was at the time, right? Like, let's not do 1, let's do 2 at the same time, right?
Yeah.
And then secondly, I rushed into it, didn't even really flesh out these ideas, didn't wireframe them. I had an idea of what they wanted to do, but when I reached out to the developers, the thing is, when you work with other people to develop your stuff, if you don't tell them every single detail, they're going to fill in the holes in whatever way they want. So what they eventually came back to me with was not what I had envisioned at all. So there was a lot of that back and forth, which meant more money and more time. And this thing that was supposed to take 6 weeks was already at 3 months and over $10,000. And in total, I ended up wasting about $15,000 on 2 plugins that eventually, when they came in, they were decent. They were all right. But here's the sad part about it. I ended up sharing it with a few colleagues and some of my fans that I knew who were on my website that I could trust to share some honest advice and feedback on. And they were like, these are okay. And I was like, what? Like, these are amazing, right? Like, think about it. This is what it does. And they're like, oh, it's not that amazing. And I can just do it doing it this way instead. And that just really deflated me, because I knew that if I were to sell this, other people would say the same thing. And it just made me think, why didn't I just have that conversation first before I spent all that money, before I wasted all this time? And the sad thing was, a lot of them were like, oh, man, if it did this instead, that would be awesome. Or, oh, you're kind of close, but what if it did this and this and this instead? And then I was like, man, that is better. That's better, but I don't have any more money to spend. And so I kind of just dumped those 2 projects. And the big lesson there, the big $15,000 lesson there for me was, whenever you're creating something new, talk to people about it first, because they're going to tell you exactly how they feel about it. And they're going to give you some amazing thoughts that you can use to take forward before you actually end up creating it. And you might find that this is a terrible idea, and you want to know if it's a terrible idea up front, because you don't want to have to find that out 2 years later. I mean, how many times have you watched the Shark Tank, for example, and you see people go on there and they pitch their ideas. They're like, yeah, I spent years doing this, my life savings. And then the investors who are there, they're like, yeah, this is a bad idea. Like, why would you even think about doing this? It's because when we come up with ideas, we get so excited about it and we get into our own groove. And some of us don't even want to share those ideas because we want to keep it secret until it's revealed and like behind a red curtain or something. But you got to talk about it with other people. Nobody's going to steal your idea. And even if they have this inkling of a thought to do it, they're not going to, because you're the one that's doing the work to put in the action. And all these other people, they're going to wish they had the action that you're going to take to actually make that thing come to life. But like I was saying earlier, you got to validate first. You got to make sure that these people are excited about your product. But more than that, and Tim Ferriss said it best. Tim Ferriss, who wrote the 4-Hour Workweek, he said, don't just ask people if they would buy the thing. Ask them to buy it. Even before you create it, ask them to buy it to see if they would truly spend money on that thing. That's the only way to truly know whether or not this thing is validated or not. Because a lot of people will say they like it, but more important, what they're trying to do is they just don't want to hurt your feelings. And when it comes to business and this time and money you're going to spend on a project, you want your feelings to get hurt more than your feelings getting hurt 2 years down the road when you have a project and you're yelling from the rooftops, buy my thing, and then nobody buys your thing anymore. And the cool thing about the validation process is you aren't taking steps forward until you know you've sort of passed that test. The whole book and the premise of Will It Fly is sort of like a litmus test that's broken up into stages. And you sort of go through a few tests first, and if it passes that test, then boom, you're good. Move on to the next one, which tests you a little more and it forces you to get out of your comfort zone a little bit more, but you pass that test and you keep moving forward all the way until you get to the point at which people are paying money for this thing before you even built it. Now, you might be wondering, well, why would people want to pay for something that they don't have access to yet? Well, think about it. There's sites like Kickstarter right now where everybody's paying money for things that don't exist yet. They're paying for the idea of those things, and they are paying to get early access to those things, which is exactly what you would give people if you have an idea. And so typically, I mean, a quick, easy scenario is, hey, maybe you want to create an online course. Well, see if you can get 10 people who are interested in who would give you $50 to be a part of the first group of students who would work with you to actually create the curriculum that you can teach your expertise to and with. So that way, you know that if you get 10 people, great, do it. And if not, great, don't do it. You know that doesn't work, and you have to shift your message, change to a different product, or try something else. So sorry, I had a lot of coffee right before this, so I'm very talkative right now, but I hope that all makes sense.
It does. Yeah. And I think the parallels that I can make with it and how it's applicable to a medical device, especially something that you're selling to the consumer market, is that you want to be always involved with the people that are going to be using the product. And I actually just spoke with someone recently that said, hey, I need to raise all this money for manufacturing. Can you help me raise it? I know you have a network of investors. And I said, wait, let's back up first. Tell me more about it. And what market research have you done? And it was almost nothing. And I thought, well, you're ready to get some investors' money, and they're not even going to give you money unless they see this research. And you need to be testing it on other people. And sometimes even on the more clinical use products, I'll have people that are doctors and they say, oh, well, I see patients all day long. I know this is needed. Well, maybe for your patients and maybe in your mind, that's what people need. But what about your colleagues? What about other key opinion leaders? And just getting that idea out there, getting it beta tested, it makes a big difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And if some of you are like, oh, well, I can't ask for money for something like that. Yeah, well, ask for an email address. Email is similar to currency these days because people don't just give out their emails anymore because we all get way too many emails. But you sign up for things that you're interested in. You wouldn't sign up for something that you're not interested in. So if you can collect a person's email address, that's sort of a good first step to whether or not this person is actually interested in hearing from you. And then from there, you can have conversations with them. Hey, what are your biggest struggles with this? If I were to make this thing, what's the number one feature that you would want included? What's something that you use to try and solve the same problem? All those kinds of questions can be really helpful for you to understand really what should be built. And again, another problem with your friend there who had come up with that idea, he probably has all this stuff that he has in that product that's not necessary because he didn't talk to anybody.
Yep.
A lot of times the best thing, you don't want to create that, the remote control you have for your TV that has like 400,000 buttons. That nobody uses.
You only need 5 of them.
Right. I mean, when you're creating your product for the first time, you want to only have the buttons that are necessary. And what's funny is a lot of times you're going to find after working with your first round of customers or your beta users that some of those ideas that you had for this thing aren't actually things that they want. And what is important is what they want, not what you think they want or what you want. It's what they want. And when you have that direct line of communication, when you have their email, when you have a direct message going with them, you can literally ask them, is this something that you would use or would it be something you wouldn't use? And you can collect data from there and move forward in the way. Listening and market research takes the guesswork out of all this. And that's really what we're trying to do here. The last thing you want to do is guess, because the more guessing you do, the more likely it is you're going to miss.
Yeah, definitely. So getting into that more, this market research, this listening, that does take some work. And I think people are distracted by, hey, this is really cool. I'm working on my project. It's the shiny object that I just want to pour all my energy into. And it takes some self-discipline to really do the research and go through it properly. So that I'm going to shift here. So that brings me into having the right mindset and not being limited, but also making sure this endeavor is right for you. So
totally.
I guess let me set the stage with first, you want to make sure that this endeavor works for you. And with someone taking on development of a new product, that can be, I would say 2 years minimum, maybe a decade for really complex products. So you've got to be pretty committed to do this. One of the things that I really got a lot out of was your airport test and really being able to see in the future, okay, this is what I want my life to be like 5 years from now. And these are the areas that are important to me. So how did you even come up with that? That was brilliant, by the way.
Yeah. So what Megan's talking about is at the first part of the book, Will It Fly? And I hope you all pick it up if you have the opportunity to do so. It's available on Kindle, on paperback, and also Audible if you wanted to listen to it.
I'll link to it here.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for that. But the very first experiment in the first part of the book is all about the mindset, because I think most of you would know that you need to have the right mindset in order to succeed with your business. You can have the best solutions in the world, but if you don't have the mindset to actually believe that this is something that's worth your time, it's never gonna come and happen. So the first test is something I like to call the airport test, and this was adapted from Keller Williams Realty International, which is the one franchise realty sort of program in the world, your realtor. And I got to meet and speak with one of the people who work there. His name is Jay Papstan. He's I think vice president, but he and his co-author Gary Keller, they wrote this book called The One Thing. But anyway, I was speaking with Jay, and he's like, he's just started talking. I don't know how he got into this conversation, but he was talking about how his company, Keller Williams Realty, hires people. And he says that when he hires people, he runs his prospects through this thought experiment. And he shared this thought experiment with me, which is essentially the airport test. And that was a way for him to understand not just if they are the right fit for the company in terms of filling that hole or that job description, but if that company is right for them. So it's a way to understand beforehand if there's going to be a good partnership between the employee and the employer. And if you go through this test, and I'll run through it with all of you in just a moment, if they were to run through this test and they find that there's a disconnect there, like for example, the person who is being hired for a specific job, maybe their ultimate life goal is to become mayor. Well, that's not something that this employer can help them do. It would actually take them away from that. So it's very easy for them to part ways in a very civil way, as opposed to having what would be essentially the equivalent of a divorce 2 years down the road when they understand that, this person's not working hard enough. Well, it's because they're not driven, because they're working against the goals that they actually have. So the way the airport test works, and you'll kind of understand what I just said in just a minute after you're done doing this. And I highly recommend you all do this if you have the opportunity to do so. I would also recommend doing it with your spouse if you have the opportunity to do it. I did it with my wife as well. It was very enlightening and eye-opening too. And I know, Megan, you've done it yourself and kind of took it to the next level, which was great. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to all imagine that you are at the airport right now, 5 years down the road. It's 5 years down the road, 5 years older, and you're at the airport and you're sitting there waiting at the terminal, waiting for the plane to come. It hasn't arrived yet. It's actually a little bit late, which is kind of annoying. But then something cool happens. Somebody taps your shoulder from behind you, and it's one of your best friends from high school or from a club that you were in. Just whoever comes to mind that you hadn't seen for a very long time. There they are. And guess what? Their flight is delayed too. So you guys go and get a coffee at the Starbucks inside the airport or some coffee shop or something. And you're just hanging out, talking, catching up. And then this person asks you, of course, the inevitable question, which is, hey, what have you been up to? What's been happening? How is life right now? And you say, and again, remember, this is 5 years down the road. You respond with, life is awesome. It couldn't get any better right now. And I want you to stop and think about that really quick. I want you to think about, well, what would make you say that 5 years from now, that life couldn't get any better? Now, this experiment allows you to put in context these feelings of, well, what is it that you want out of life? A lot of times you might hear about these exercises called the 5-year plan or anything like that. I mean, those are kind of doing the same thing, but those are boring and they're not in context. Here, you're actually speaking with somebody meaningful to you about what is happening in your life right now. To help you do this, what I would recommend doing is taking a sheet of paper. You can hear mine here. You fold it the lengthwise one way, and then you fold it the wide way another time, so that you have 4 quadrants, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then I want you to title at the top of each of those quadrants one of the 4 most important categories of your life. So it could be anything. For me, it's family, financial, professional, and health. Those are my 4. I know some people they're musicians, so music is one of them. Another person I know, they're an athlete on a baseball team, so athletics or sports is there. You actually did 5, Megan. What were your 5?
Let's see. Good thing I have it close by. So, relationship with God, family and friends,
nice.
Health, finances, and professional.
Love it. And then under each of those, in context to the answer that you gave your friend there, life is awesome, what underneath each of those categories would help you or make you respond with life is awesome? So for me, for family, for example, it would be, we're 11 years married. This is 5 years down the road from now. Actually, it will be 12 now. 12 years married and still madly in love with each other. Still setting a good example for our kids with how to eat well. Always open and honest with each other. All those kinds of things. With health, it's going to be different things. Like I'm going to have already run an Ironman triathlon by then. I would have never, I still have the strength to play with my kids and all those kinds of things. So whatever it is, there's no wrong answers here. This is you. This is your map, essentially, your future. And the reason this is important is because as you begin to bullet point these things underneath these 4 categories, you're going to find some very interesting things about you. And of course, if you do this with a spouse, this is even better. But what this becomes is it becomes a way for you to help you make decisions in the future, because we come across new opportunities every single day, especially as business owners, as creators, as people who are entrepreneurs. We have opportunities in front of us like no other. However, not all those opportunities will give us the future that we want. So by looking at the sheet, we are able to ask ourselves, okay, does this opportunity in front of me help me achieve my goals, or does it actually take me away from achieving my goals? And so, or looking at the sheet, does it take me away from my family? If it does, then I'm not going to do it. If it's something I could do, but then it means that I'm going to, not spend as much time on my health and fitness that I want to, because this is how I want to be. This is what makes my life awesome in 5 years. If this thing that I want to do, that I'm thinking of doing, actually would make me not say that because of that, well, then it makes it very easy to say no. And I don't know about you, Megan, but for me, one of the hardest things to do, or this was previous to doing this exercise, one of the hardest things to do is to say no, because we want to do everything, and we think every opportunity is the only time that opportunity is going to come about, or any opportunities come about. We have this fear of missing out on these opportunities. But you know what? There will always be more opportunities. But when you have an opportunity and you're able to weigh it against the sheet and your future and the way you want to be, it makes it really easy to say yes. But it also, when you do say yes, it becomes very clear, and it becomes so clear that you'll be incredibly motivated and understand that, well, you are on the right path. So with wherever any of you are at right now, it might be good to reflect after you do this exercise, whether you paused and did it just now or you're going to do this afterwards. It might be fun to reflect on, well, what are you doing right now in life, and where does that lie against your sheet that you created? And then if it's different, which most likely it will be, what needs to happen? What decisions do you need to make? Are there any opportunities that are in front of you that would help you? Or do you have opportunities that are actually showing you that, well, maybe that's actually not an opportunity you should say yes to? So that's the airport test. It's more of an inward-looking, future planning kind of test.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I have it with my journal, so I just reference it every day. And that helps me, just having it right there, visible, so it can always remind me of, hey, this is what I want my life to be like. And it was refreshing to see that I wrote a lot of this out and then realized, oh, wow, well, my life's already like that. So I have a lot to be grateful for. But there is, of course, always things that I'm working on that I can either improve or that I want to be different in the future.
Right. But that's great, because then that way you have this all written down and you can maintain that now, as opposed to potentially having something get in the way of it in the future.
Yeah. So I think that's key when you're starting out any new business or new idea, just to make sure this is in line with where you want to go, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what would be, besides what's in your books, what would be some of the best advice you could give someone?
Well, through my 8 years of experience as an entrepreneur and my 33 years of experience in life, I've soon realized that this fear that always comes about, and I know everybody experiences fear in their own way, but for those of us who push ourselves, who try new things, that's always going to happen. You're going to find that resistance pushing against you. Whenever you try something new, something in the universe or whatever it is going to try and stop you. But I found that is actually a good thing. Every time I've come across fear and I've sort of conquered it, if you will, and I'll talk about that in just a second, there's always been something amazing on the other end. And I found that the fear is actually a sign that this thing that I'm fearing is really meaningful to me, that I need to continue to do it, that it's my destiny to do it. A good example was when I started public speaking. I mean, I was somebody who was always in the back of the class, would never raise their hand. I didn't like talking in front of people. I was always scared to speak.
I love your podcast on that, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Had the older clips. And you guys need to practice public speaking, especially when you get ready for doing your pitch. You need to be comfortable. So work on it for sure.
Yeah. Oh, totally. And so I was definitely afraid of public speaking. And then in 2011, I had my first experience on stage, which just was the most nerve-wracking thing I've ever done. But now I'm sort of addicted to it. And even though I still get nervous before I go on stage, I know that it's always going to be beneficial for me in my business. And it has been completely. It's not only been something that I've been able to now monetize, but it's something that now I'm able to bring my family to me with me on these trips. I'm able to meet a lot of new people that has expanded my business like I couldn't have imagined by a lot of these encounters that happen while speaking on stage. And again, I still get nervous before I speak. I don't think that's ever going to go away, but that's good, because that shows me that this is something that I still care about and that I want to do and I want to do well at. I would be more nervous if I was too confident before I got on stage. That would mean there was something wrong. Maybe I wasn't pushing myself hard enough. And that's the thing. If you ever get into complacency mode where you're just too comfortable and everything's great and you're not experiencing that fear, well, maybe you're not pushing yourself as far as you can actually go. So keep pushing yourself to that point at which you start to begin to fear. And I think that's going to help change people's minds about the anxiety they might feel and actually give them that motivation to keep pushing forward.
Good. So I am linking to your book, Will It Fly, as well as the 4-Hour Work Week in the show notes here. So how can people reach out with you if they have any more questions?
Oh, well, thank you. And again, thank you for featuring me here. And I wish everybody the best of luck with their business ideas and their creations. I love to, help as many people as I can. And just thank you for allowing me to be here on your platform. I'm available at smartpassiveincome.com or on Twitter at Pat Flynn. It's probably the easiest and quickest way to get a reach of me. But everything's available at smartpassiveincome.com and, of course, willitflybook.com.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So thank you all for tuning into that episode. I hope you learned a lot. It's always great to talk with people from different industries because you listen to what's worked for them and then you can apply it to your own industry and your own product. So you certainly had lots of golden nuggets of knowledge for us. So thanks for that again, Pat. And if you want to go sign up for that beta program before it's too late, go head on over to amua-services.com/IIPP or text the word Invention to 44222. So we will catch you next Tuesday. And until then, Amua.
Mahalo for joining us. If you're new to riding the waves of medical device product development, or if you've been in development for a while already, Inspired by Amua is here to surf with you. Want to be a master of the waves? Text HANG10, that's HANGTEN, to 44222. We'll send you the most common wipeouts companies make in product development so you can avoid them and reach master wave status. Again, that's HANG10 to 44222. We publish a new episode every Tuesday, so catch us at inspiredbyamua.com. Amua!